Hi, welcome to the virtual grocery shopping tour webinar. I'm Reyna Franco. I am your registered dietitian nutritionist, and I'm here to give you support for your nutrition and wellness. I'm available for the New York-based employees. So if you have any questions after this talk, you feel free and email me, and I will get back to you. We could, respond by email or set up a meeting by telephone. So on we go to our supermarket. Well, here's a picture of a supermarket. My supermarket doesn't look anything like this. Um, it's a beautiful supermarket, nice and bright, cheerful. Maybe your supermarket looks similar to this one. Mine is small, dark, but there's something that every grocery store has in common. It's the way it's laid out. And we're going to talk about that in greater detail. Now, also something we have to think about is the way we shop. So many of us shop differently. Some people use lists, some do not. Some people like to shop first thing in the morning, some late at night. Now that we're working from home, you might even be able to shop during the day. If you're an older adult, some of the supermarkets have evenings for people over a certain age. So those special hours are generally first thing in the morning, which is a great time to go when nobody else is around. There are just so many different options for shopping at the supermarket. Some people like to buy in bulk, buy lots of food just once a week. Some people even will just go once every 2 weeks, while others will go a couple times a week. So we're going to learn about the layout of the stores. We're going to learn about where to find the most nutritious foods. We're going to learn how to shop on a budget and also how to read the food label. So as I mentioned, you want to know the store layout. So I'm sure you always hear walk the perimeter of the market. Well, that's because that's where the refrigerators are, the freezers, and a lot of the areas where there is a counter space, where there's somebody behind a counter. And does anybody know why everything's along the perimeter? Well, that's because that's where the electrical outlets are for cost. For the supermarkets, they put the electrical outlets around the perimeter of the store, and that's where you're going to find the freshest foods. You're going to find your fruits and vegetables. You're going to find most of your whole foods around the perimeter. In your middle aisles, that's where you're going to find box foods, canned foods. And we're going to talk about the different types of box and canned foods that you can find in the middle aisles. So many of you have already seen this plant-based plate. This is what we're aiming for. We want half our plate to be fruits and vegetables, a quarter plant proteins like nuts and seeds, legumes, beans, and another quarter to be our whole grains. So when we're going to the supermarket, we want to focus on getting lots of fruits and vegetables, plant-based proteins, beans, legumes, whole grains. And we're going to focus on this as we go through this particular webinar. So let's go shopping. So the very first thing you want to do is you want to plan out your weekly menu. That's the first thing before you even start going to the supermarket. You have to know what you're going to be preparing for the week. What foods do you already have? What do you need more of? I talked about this in the last presentation I gave about menu prepping and preparing and shopping, creating lists. So if you didn't get to attend that webinar, go back to our the Ogilvy Fitness Center website and you could get access to it, or just send me an email and I'll send it to you. So think about what you're going to eat, plan your week or even 2 weeks of menus, and then create a list. Now you have your list, so you can go shopping and shop efficiently. We don't want to spend loads of time in the grocery store. Another thing you want to make sure you do is have a snack before you go to the supermarket. You don't want to go there hungry. What happens when you go to the supermarket hungry? You end up buying more than you actually need. You might buy foods that, for example, you don't need, or unhealthy options that look better than they actually are. So have that snack before you go. Shop the perimeter, we'll talk about that, and buy mostly fresh whole foods. So number one item on the perimeter, my favorite section, is the produce section. Here we're going to find lots of fruits and vegetables. So when you go to the produce section, focus on, again, your list. Look for fruits and vegetables that are in season. Those will be the freshest. And if you could find fruits and vegetables that are grown locally, again, those are going to be the freshest fruits and vegetables. And make sure your cart is filled with lots of different colors. Each color, fruit and vegetable, has a different set of antioxidants to keep us healthy and protect our immune system. And then one fun thing I like to do is when I see a fruit or vegetable I've never seen before, I buy it. I want to give it a try. I might not know what it is. Well, generally they will tell you what the product is. I might not know how to prepare it or what to do with it. So I'll go online and I'll do an internet search on that particular fruit and vegetable. I'll come up with some recipes, give it a try. If I like it, great. If I don't like it, oh well, I won't try it again. But it's always fun to try something new. So again, the produce section, your fruits and vegetables, that's where you're going to get all of your nutrients to keep you healthy and keep you feeling good, giving you energy. And then as we walk around, you might see some meat and poultry. So what you want to do here is you want to look for meats and poultries that are leaner. You want to make sure that when you buy your meat, look for words loin and round. When you're buying beef, those are leaner cuts. If you're buying ground beef, you want 90% lean. If you're buying poultry, choose boneless, skinless. Skinless because the skin is what contains the saturated fat. That's the bad fat. That's the fat that increases our bad cholesterol. So we want to be aware of what we're purchasing. So here we have our deli counters and our seafood counters. When you go to the deli and you want to buy poultry, let's say, the best thing to do is to ask for store roasted turkey, store roasted chicken. And the reason for that is that anything that's store roasted is going to be a lot fresher and healthier than anything that they're bringing in that's already processed. You're looking for meats that don't have additives, that are as clean as possible, and not in terms of sanitation, but in terms of additives and low sodium or no sodium added, no nitrates added. Those will be the healthiest items for you. Now, if you're going to have them slice meat, fish, chicken, cheese, make sure they're using the standard slicer size, which is 1 ounce. And the reason why that is important, 1 ounce, because it makes it easier for you to know how much food you're putting onto your plate. So a general serving is 3 ounces to 6 ounces. The amount that you need is going to be different from somebody else based on your weight, based on your personal needs, how much protein you want to eat, things like that. So if you specifically want to know what your needs are, contact me and I'll help you out with that. Choose lean cuts of meat. And then a lot of the deli counters have salads. So, I always suggest making your own salad, but once in a while you might want to buy something that is pre-made. Just watch out for the salads that have a lot of mayonnaise in it. I also am very, personally, I don't like salads that have been sitting around all day. Um, Take a look. Do they look fresh? Check it out. And if something doesn't look fresh, it probably isn't. Now, some supermarkets actually have a seafood section. So ask the person who's helping you out which is the freshest seafood. So pick the item that's the freshest. Then there's wild versus farmed. Generally, wild is better. However, it's also usually more expensive. The good news is a lot of farmed seafood is now being grown in a sustainable manner. So find out how it's farmed, and that might be an okay option for you. Another thing is mercury. We're always concerned about mercury. Large fish like shark and swordfish are very high in mercury. We want to consume that as infrequently as possible, and smaller fish have less mercury. And then we move on to our dairy area. So we start with milk. There are so many different types of milks. There are animal milks from cows and goats. There are all these different nut milks and grain milks and soy milks, and they vary based on protein and fat and calories. So again, a lot of the type of milk you select is based on how, what type of, are you eating strictly plant-based diet? Are you allergic to something? So yeah, it's up to a person. And again, I could help you make those decisions as to what would be the best milk for you. Also, on anything you buy, check the sell by and the use by dates. I'll give you a great example. This weekend I went to the supermarket and I saw a wonderful sale on Parmesan, grated Parmesan cheese. And it was $1.99. I was like, wow, I've never seen Parmesan cheese so inexpensive. So I bought it home, and that evening we went to use it, and my son opened it up and said, "Ma, it smells kind of sharp." I was like, well, Parmesan cheese can be very sharp. And then he looked at the date. It was a use by date that was the 2 days from that current date. So let's say it was the 25th. The used by date was for the 26th, the 27th. So, I was okay using it because I thought it tasted okay, it smelled okay. But it goes to show that when things are on sale, well, maybe they just got a lot of a certain product, or maybe they're trying to get rid of it. So check the date. Even if it's not on sale, still check the date. I have one supermarket near me that quite often has food that is past dated. So be careful. That goes for eggs. Interesting thing, when you store eggs at home, put it inside the refrigerator, not on the door. There are all different types of yogurts. Again, some are, stick with the ones that are plain, because flavored yogurts quite often have extra sugar. And when it comes to cheese, again, watch out for the amount of sodium in the cheese. Cheese can be very high in sodium. Also, there are some low-fat cheeses, so you might want to look for that. You might want to look for low-fat yogurts, low-fat milks. Sometimes when a cheese is low-fat, they add sodium to it to make it more flavorful. Again, you have to look at all these different things on the ingredient list and the nutrition facts label, and I'll be talking about that in a little greater detail. So next is canned foods. Nothing wrong with canned foods. In fact, I have a lot of staples of canned foods. For example, I have a lot of different beans. I love black beans. So you have black beans, chickpeas, red beans, whatever beans you like. It's a really easy thing to have. Pull out, and beans are a great source of protein. You can even have canned vegetables. I like having artichokes, hearts of palm, canned tomatoes, great for making a sauce, pumpkin, that's always fun. Again, when you buy any of these items that are canned, make sure no sodium is added or it's low sodium and there's no sugar added. And you gotta look out for that when you're buying fruit, canned fruit. You want to make sure it's canned in its own juices and there's no added sugar. You could also get canned fish like tuna or wild salmon. When you buy salmon in a can, make sure there's no bones. That was my first mistake. The first time I ever tried buying wild salmon, I didn't realize there were bones in there. So that is something that you need to keep an eye on. Again, look at the ingredient list. Make sure the ingredients are just that item, just the beans, just the vegetable, just the fruit, and nothing else added. If there is a little sodium added, again, make sure it's just a little. The best thing is just that item and nothing else. So now we're going down the dry foods aisle, and here you can see a lot of different types of foods. Some healthy foods, some not healthy foods. For example, in this picture here, I see everything from candies to coffees to grains. So going along, you want to select the foods that are most healthy for you. So let's start with snacks. Lots of great snacks there. You want to find anything that's whole. So look for the word whole in the ingredient list. You want that very first word to say W-H-O-L-E, whole. That will tell you it's a whole grain. If it just says wheat, it's just processed wheat. You need that word whole, and you'll look for that on crackers, on breads, pastas, things like that. Another thing is rice. Look for brown rice, not white rice. Again, brown rice is the whole grain, while white rice is stripped of the fiber, stripped of the nutrients, and you're just left with a little piece of starch. That's what you're eating when you're having white rice. Dried fruits, another good snack, but make sure the only ingredient in that dried fruit is just the fruit. Some dried fruits have sugar added, specifically cranberries. They add sugar to cranberries because dried cranberries by themselves is very tart. So they usually add sugar. Look for a variety of different types of grains. Look for nuts and seeds. Again, when you're buying nuts and seeds, you want the only ingredient to be just that nut or seed. If it's going to be roasted, pick dry roasted, unsalted. These are things to be looking for. Legumes, there's dried beans and peas and lentils, delicious, great sources of protein. Nut butter, so peanut butter, almond butter, cashew butter. When it comes to nut butters, make sure there's no sugar added. You might be surprised that your favorite nut butter has sugar in it. Sugar could be high fructose corn syrup, it could be maple syrup, it could be any type of sugar. So make sure that's not added. Also, watch out for nut butters where they add extra oil. You don't really need that. And salt. A lot of nut butters add extra salt. So stick to either no salt or low sodium nut butters. Stay away from low fat nut butters. The reason for that, low fat nut butters add other ingredients to make it taste good. So the fat in regular nut butters are good fats. So it's okay. Just get nut butter that's just 100% nuts. And then my favorite thing is spices. You want to spice up your meal. You want to make sure your food tastes good. So go to that spice aisle and get whatever spices you like to flavor up your food. A few other things to look for when you're going down looking at dry foods is you want to find foods that have the fewest number of ingredients and also ingredients that you recognize. You also want to look at the fiber. If something is 3 grams of fiber, that's pretty good. but you're better off finding something that's 5 grams or greater. That would be a really good source of fiber. And then sugar. We're going to talk a little bit about sugar on the ingredient list, the nutrition facts label in a minute, but 4 grams of sugar is equivalent to a teaspoon of sugar. So we want to avoid sugar as much as possible. Frozen foods. So I love frozen fruits and vegetables. The wonderful thing about frozen fruits and vegetables is they're flash frozen. Why is that good? Well, what happens is when the fruit or vegetable is picked, it's immediately frozen, so all the nutrients, the antioxidants, they're all captured and they're there. You don't lose them. Whereas our fresh fruits and vegetables, what happens over time, the nutrients oxidize, which means you lose some nutrients. The best fresh fruits and vegetables are ones that you get right from the farm, picked today, picked yesterday, delicious, they're great. But at a supermarket, again, you want to look for locally grown fruits and vegetables because those will be the freshest. The further a fruit or vegetable comes from, the longer you'll have that transport. For example, I was just looking at some blueberries that I had in my refrigerator, and they're from Peru. So who knows how long it took for them to get, from being picked in Peru to my refrigerator. It could have been a couple weeks. Not that they're not unhealthy. They're still very healthy, and they still have plenty of nutrients in it. But if I was going to measure the amount of nutrients in frozen blueberries compared to the ones in my refrigerator, the frozen ones might have actually more nutrients. So think about that. When you buy frozen fruits and vegetables, you want to make sure nothing is added. There's no added salt, no added sugar, no added nothing. Also, another benefit in buying frozen is it's usually less expensive. You could also, if you're a family of 1 or 2 people, you're by yourself or you have one other person, you'll have to buy a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables and seem to waste it. When it's frozen, you could just pick the quantity you need and use that quantity. So that's another advantage. Frozen fruits and vegetables last a long time. Yep, so I just definitely recommend, having that as a staple in your freezer. A lot of it depends upon how much room you have in your freezer will be based on how many fruits and vegetables you could purchase. And talking about purchasing power, know what your budget is. So we really want to stay in control of how much we spend, and a lot of it, just creating that shopping list is a great start. So you don't go in buying more than you actually need. Buying in bulk could be very helpful. Now, a lot of times, you might be a single person or a small family, and you might not have space for bulk. You might not use all the food from a bulk purchase. So ways to go about that is to go shopping with a friend and share. My favorite thing is go to Costco and buy things in bulk and split it with a friend. So that's always a great way to save money. Now take a look at your supermarket's circular, check out coupons. Again, when something is on sale or if you have a coupon, doesn't mean you have to buy it. Only buy food that you really need. Buying things on sale just because it's on sale could be a waste. And shopping for more meatless foods, for example, beans and legumes, that's a great protein. They're a lot less expensive than meat and chicken. So again, think about the food that you're consuming, your health, and put together a budget. Planning is another very important part of budgeting, planning your meals in advance and maybe reusing things. So there's a lot to help you reduce the budget, reduce the amount of money you're spending on your food. labels. So, hey, we're in advertising here. We know how, when something looks good in the front of your package, people want to buy it. So the front of the package is going to have your health claims, your nutrient claims. But just because you see that something's organic or non-GMO, that doesn't mean it's more healthy for you. You could have organic non-GMO cookies. That doesn't mean it's a healthy item. So give that some thought. Instead of looking at the labels and the claims on the front of the package, flip it over. Because the more important things for you to read is the nutrition facts and the ingredient list. Now, when it comes to the ingredient list, items are listed in order of what has the most in that item, the most quantity to the least. So, for example, whole wheat bread. The first ingredient should be whole wheat. And then as it goes on, there'll be some other ingredients, but in order of predominance. You also want to purchase something that has the least amount of ingredients, so 5 ingredients or less is great. And also, you want to know what those ingredients are. If you don't recognize something, if you can't read it, or you don't know what it is, it's probably not healthy for you. It's probably a preservative or an additive, something you most likely could do without. So here you see a picture of the nutrition facts label. A couple things to keep in mind is it tells you how many servings are in a container. So be very conscientious when you buy something, so you know how many servings are there. For example, if you're going to get chips and you eat the whole bag, take a look at how many servings are really in that bag of chips. Was it a 1 serving bag or was it a 5 serving bag? And then if it was 5 servings and if a serving is 200 calories, you know you just ate 1,000 calories worth of chips. They added a couple things to the nutrition facts label very recently. One is the amount of added sugar. So that's really important. A good example is milk. So milk has lactose in it, which is a natural sugar. So in milk, you'll see total sugars, let's say it's 10. And then you look at added sugars, it will say 0 grams of sugar. So regular plain milk has no added sugar. If we compare that to chocolate milk, you might see total sugars 15 and added sugars 5. In this case, we know, well, we got that regular, plain milk plus they added chocolate and sugar to it to make it taste good. So that is what we're looking for. We want to avoid foods with added sugars. Then you have protein, and in this case, whatever this item is, it's 5 grams of protein, which is a good source of protein. And then we list nutrients that we are quite often deficient in. So this product has no vitamin D, a little bit of calcium, some iron, a little bit of potassium. So these are things to look at also, but the most important things to look at is you want to make sure there's no trans fat. We want to limit our saturated fat. Cholesterol we want to limit, sodium we want to limit. We want to increase dietary fiber, so that's a good thing. And we don't want any added sugars. And lastly, I always like to keep a list of food that I'm running out of on my refrigerator. So as I use something up, I write down the item on my list, my supermarket list, so I know I have to buy it. I can't stop saying don't go to the supermarket when you're hungry. You have to eat before you go to the supermarket, really important. Another thing is those items that when you at the checkout, the candies, all those little goodies they have there trying to get you to buy something at the last moment. Again, avoid those. When you are purchasing, anything, buy plain or original versions of food, like just plain milk, plain yogurts, plain cottage cheese, plain anything, and then you can flavor them up yourself. Add fruit to it, add cinnamon, ginger. There's so many delicious things we could do to our foods and our drinks. Stick with plain seltzer, and add flavor to it, natural flavors. When you buy packaged goods, avoid things that are, have multiple ingredients, possibly more than 5 ingredients. Avoid it if you don't know what the ingredient is. If your grandmother wouldn't know what it is, avoid it. And put on your list some really healthy, nutritious foods like green tea, flax seeds, berries, dark leafy greens, which are loaded with antioxidants, cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, Brussels sprouts. Again, more potent antioxidants to keep us healthy. And lots of herbs and spices, turmeric and garlic, and whatever you enjoy, whatever makes you feel good. So here are some references and resources that you could refer to, check out to learn more about the supermarket, to learn more about healthy eating. And I want to thank you for attending today. If you have any questions, you could reach me at my email. It's reyna.franco@ogilvy.com. So I'm available to send me emails for your questions. You can schedule an appointment with me by email. And I really hope to see you soon. Have a fabulous day and happy shopping.